before fame, before the luxury apartments, before the giant billboards hanging above cities that barely slept. Her name was Evelyn Hart. Evelyn Hart was just a girl with nervous hands and tired sneakers standing inside a tiny photography studio that smelled like dust, coffee, and overheated lights. That was where she met Daniel Mercer, an old photographer with silver hair, worn denim jackets, and a habit of speaking softly even when everyone else shouted, while agencies searched for perfection. Daniel searched for truth. And the first thing he noticed about Evelyn wasn't her beauty. It was the sadness in her eyes when nobody was looking. Rain tapped softly against the studio windows. Evelyn stood near the backdrop, arms crossed tightly over herself while makeup artists rushed around the room carrying brushes, powders, curling irons. She looked terrified. Daniel adjusted the lens of his camera and said gently, "You can breathe. Nobody's shooting yet." She laughed nervously. "Sorry, I've never done this before." Her voice was quiet, almost apologetic. Most models walked into rooms wanting to be seen. Evelyn looked like she wanted permission to exist. Daniel lifted the camera slightly. "Good," he said. "Don't lose that." Years later, he would regret saying it, because the industry would spend the next decade ripping that softness out of her piece by piece. A model the world couldn't stop looking at. The world fell in love with Evelyn fast. Too fast. Magazine covers, luxury campaigns, runways in Paris, Milan, New York. Everywhere she went, camera flashes exploded like lightning. Photographers shouted over one another. "Evelyn, over here! Look left! Give me colder! Perfect! That's perfect!" People touched her constantly, adjusting her hair, her dress, her posture, her face, like she belonged to everyone. But after shoots ended, the silence hit her hardest. Hotel rooms colder than they looked online. Half-eaten room service beside untouched wine glasses, the distant hum of traffic 30 floors below. And Evelyn sitting alone in oversized, white robes, slowly wiping makeup off her face while staring into the mirror like she was searching for someone still trapped underneath it. Sometimes she would call Daniel past midnight. Not because she needed advice, because he spoke to her like a human being. One night he asked, "You happy?" Long silence. Then she laughed softly. "I don't know anymore." By 27, Evelyn Hart wasn't a person anymore. She was a brand. People discussed her face like it was stock market currency. Her engagement is dropping. She needs a new look. She should date someone famous. She's losing mystery. Nobody asked if she was tired. One morning inside a luxury fitting room, assistants zipped dresses onto her body while stylists argued around her. The room smelled like perfume, steaming fabric, and hairspray. Evelyn stared blankly at herself in the mirror. A stylist grabbed her chin suddenly. "No, no, no. You're doing that dead-eye thing again." Dead-eye thing. Like emptiness was bad branding. The room laughed lightly. Evelyn forced a smile automatically, the kind practiced so many times it no longer needed emotion behind it. The exhaustion didn't arrive dramatically. It arrived quietly, like water, slowly filling a room. One morning, Evelyn woke up inside her penthouse apartment and stared at the ceiling for nearly an hour. The curtains moved softly from the air conditioning. The city outside glowed pale blue before sunrise. Her phone buzzed endlessly beside her. Schedule updates, brand emails, invitations, interviews. She ignored all of it. Something felt wrong. Not sadness, not pain, just absence, as if someone had quietly removed her from herself overnight. She sat up slowly and whispered, "I don't feel real." The words disappeared into the empty apartment. No answer came back. Later that day, Evelyn posted a photo online. Golden lighting, perfect posture, soft smile. Within minutes, literal goddess. She never ages. Perfect woman, Queen Evelyn. Millions of people staring at her life through screens. Meanwhile, the real Evelyn sat alone in darkness with the television, muted, still wearing the same silk robe from morning, her food untouched beside her. She kept reading the comments over and over, not because they made her happy, because she desperately wanted one of them to feel real. Then quietly she whispered to herself, "None of you know me." Outside the apartment windows, helicopters blinked red across the night sky. Inside, the silence felt enormous. Daniel saw the change before everyone else. Photographers noticed details normal people miss. The fake smile arriving half a second too late. the eyes losing focus between poses, the exhaustion hidden beneath expensive makeup. During one campaign shoot, Evelyn froze mid pose. Bright white lights burned against her skin. Music thundered through hidden speakers. Crew members rushed around carrying equipment, but Evelyn couldn't hear them properly anymore. Everything sounded distant, muffled, like she was underwater. Her breathing became uneven. A makeup artist touched her shoulder. Evelyn flinched violently. The room went silent. Daniel lowered his camera immediately. "Everybody out," he said calmly. The designer frowned. "We're losing time." Daniel didn't look at him. "I said out." The room slowly emptied. Evelyn sat down on the edge of the platform, trembling. Daniel handed her a bottle of water. Her hands shook too hard to open it. "You need rest," he said quietly. Evelyn stared at the floor. "If I stop moving," she whispered, "I think everything falls apart." Daniel looked at her for a long moment, then said the one thing nobody else ever told her. Maybe it already is. The strange part wasn't the sadness. It was the numbness, the terrifying inability to feel anything at all. Evelyn used to dance barefoot in her kitchen at 2 a.m. while eating ice cream from the container. Now the apartment stayed silent, untouched, still. She tried reading her favorite poetry book one night. The words felt empty. She played her favorite song, turned it off after 10 seconds, watched the sunset from her balcony, felt nothing. The city glowed gold and orange beneath her, and it looked as emotionally distant as a painting in a hotel hallway. Weeks passed, then months. Evelyn stopped attending parties, stopped answering calls, messages piled up unread. "You okay? Where have you been? Call me. You disappeared." She read them all, answered none. People started talking. "She's become arrogant. She thinks she's too important now." Fame changed her. No one understood that even replying to a message felt physically exhausting. Daniel visited her apartment one evening, carrying coffee and food. She opened the door wearing oversized sweatpants and no makeup, dark circles beneath her eyes. The apartment smelled stale, curtains closed, dishes unwashed. For the first time in years, Evelyn Hart looked human. Daniel looked around quietly, then at her. "When's the last time you slept?" She shrugged. "When's the last time you left this apartment?" Long silence. "I don't know." The first hallucination came during the rain. Evelyn sat alone on the bedroom floor, listening to water hit the windows. The apartment lights were off. Only the city glow illuminated the room faintly blue. Then she heard it. A voice, soft, almost inside her ear. "You're fading." Evelyn froze. The room became painfully quiet. She looked around slowly. Nobody there. Her breathing quickened. Then again. "You're disappearing." She covered her ears tightly, but the voice stayed. Because it wasn't coming from the room. It was coming from inside her collapsing mind. After that, reality started breaking apart. Evelyn began taping over tiny lights on electronics. Laptop cameras, television sensors, smoke detectors. She unplugged appliances one by one, then stood in silence listening for sounds that weren't there. Footsteps outside the door, whispers in the hallway, people watching from parked cars below. One night, she called Daniel crying. "They're inside." Daniel drove across the city immediately. When he arrived, Evelyn stood in the kitchen gripping a knife with trembling hands. The apartment was empty. She looked at him with terrified eyes. "You believe me, right?" Daniel slowly lowered the knife from her hand, his voice barely above a whisper. "No, Evelyn." That answer shattered her more than if he had screamed, because deep down, part of her already knew. The media noticed her disappearance soon after. Articles spread everywhere. Evelyn Hart unstable? Model's bizarre behavior concerns fans. Career collapse behind closed doors? Television hosts discussed her like entertainment. People online mocked her appearance, analyzed her weight, her expressions, her silence. Nobody asked, what happened to her? Because people love glamorous suffering, as long as they don't have to witness the ugly parts. Evelyn stopped opening the curtains completely. Days and nights blended together inside the apartment. Half-empty water bottles covered the floor. Mirrors faced the walls. She barely recognized her own reflection anymore. Her hallucinations grew louder. Sometimes she heard camera shutters in empty rooms, sometimes applause, sometimes voices whispering her name from inside the walls. Evelyn stopped fighting them. That was the scariest part. The mind eventually gets tired of defending reality. Daniel kept calling. No answer. Again. No answer. Again. Nothing. Until one morning, the assistant unlocked the apartment door. The smell of stale air and untouched food filled the room. Television flickering silently. Lights still on. Evelyn sat on the floor beside the couch, back against the wall. Eyes open, expression empty. Alive, but gone. Daniel arrived minutes later. He looked at her for a long time without speaking, then slowly picked up a framed photograph from the table. A picture from her very first photo shoot. Before the fame, before the breakdown, before the world consumed her. In the photo, Evelyn was smiling naturally, not performing, not posing, just alive. Daniel stared at it quietly while ambulance lights flashed red and blue across the apartment walls, and for the first time in years, he cried. The world said Evelyn Hart had everything: beauty, money, attention, fame, but the human mind does not care about applause, and loneliness becomes far more dangerous when millions of people mistake your performance for your reality. Some people don't collapse all at once. They fade slowly in crowded rooms, behind perfect smiles, while the world keeps clapping. And sometimes, by the time anyone notices, there's almost nothing left to save.